Welcome to phase 1 of Happy Hips Flexibility Program with FitYogaTherapy. Hi, I'm Chris and I'm happy to help you move to more flexible hips. We are going to begin today with doing some simple movements to warm up the hip joints, and then we're going to do some foam rolling followed by some deep stretches. Because of that, you need to have a couple things handy. You want to have a foam roller. Also, you want to make sure you have either tennis balls or a couple of these yoga massage balls. You want to have a yoga strap, a couple of yoga blocks if possible, and maybe even a blanket and or a bolster. So if you don't have those handy, take a few moments and find some things that you might substitute or things around the house that you can use. And then we'll begin. So our first thing is going to be focusing on our breath, because this flexibility program is based on yoga. So we will start with belly breathing. We're going to lay on our backs, relaxing our head to the floor. So if your head is lifted off the floor, place something on your floor to support your head so it's nice and it's flat against the floor and your shoulders are in line with your head. Feet are hip width apart. And you're just going to simply begin to focus on your breath. So take one hand to the belly and begin some belly breathing. In belly breathing, we're allowing our belly to rise as we inhale and relax as we exhale. Try to breathe in and out only through your nose. And notice what's happening in the body. As we're breathing, you are going to work towards lengthening the inhale and lengthening the exhale. Maybe up to 4 to 6 seconds in and 4 to 6 seconds out. Belly breathing is essential to a flexibility program, as relaxed breathing helps tell your body to let go of tension. So if at any time during your practice you feel like your breath is getting shorter or restricted, or you're even holding your breath, notice that and either adjust the posture to where you're less stressed, or even come all the way out of it completely. And make sure the first thing you do is have nice, slow belly breathing. The rest will come. I encourage you to practice this anytime, not only during your flexibility program. So from here, we're going to do some myofascial unwinding. To begin our practice, we're going to start in tabletop. Come on up to a tabletop position. Make sure your hands are under your shoulders, fingers spread wide. Begin to find cat and cow first, rounding and arching the back with the breath. So as you inhale, you look up and arch your back. As you exhale, you round the back and look towards your belly or your legs. You can add to this and continue moving into child's pose, pulling yourself forward and pushing yourself back. Continue that slow breath, allowing your body to connect to your breath, allowing the movements to guide you. And then eventually the breath will guide the movements. We're going to start with a little more structured unwinding for the hips and legs, low back, and then I'll let you do some organic unwinding. Taking one leg behind us, lift and inhale, looking up. Exhale, round the back and bring your nose to your knee. Inhaling, looking up and lifting. Exhaling and rounding. Inhaling, looking up and lifting. Exhaling and rounding. Next, take the leg to the side. Bringing your knee towards your shoulder, reaching it back out and come across. Take your gaze towards your foot across the body. Inhale and bring it out to the side again. And then bring it across towards the opposite side. Once more, bring it out. As you come across, you're invited to do a little stretch here. You can just hold up here, or you can either slide back into a twisted side bend. From here, we're going to come back into tabletop and move to the other direction. So inhaling, looking up, lifting, exhaling, rounding, nose to knee. This is opening the front line of our body and the back line of our body. Letting the head come up and arching the spine and then rounding the spine. Next, bringing your knee out to the side and then across the body, looking at the toes for a nice side bend. Try that again, out to the side, across the body for a side bend. Once more, out to the side. And as we come across, you can bring it down, stay here, or slide slowly out so that you can lengthen that other side. If this knee feels too much pressure, do not go back that far, just stay up here. Then we're going to come back to tabletop. Now the fun part. We're going to practice organic movement. So start with your unwinding with Chakravarkasana. But I'm going to invite you to move any way which you like. Some suggestions are barrel rolls with the chest or hip circles. You could even come forward and drop your hips to stretch the front of the hips. Let's take a minute or so to move. I'm going to turn up the music and allow you to close your eyes and move organically. Make sure you breathe just like you were breathing on your back. Think of the animals as they get up in the morning. What does the cat do when he first gets up? What does the dog do? They move, they stretch, they move without thought. Try it for yourself. Most of our stiffness in our hips is related to tension that we hold in our body from emotional blockages, habits that we do, things that we continue to do in our lives. It might be that you're an athlete and you use your hips a lot for your sport. It doesn't have to necessarily be something bad that causes stiffness in our hips. But we have to work to release that with more organic type of movement out of the box, out of those typical movements we have. So we're literally unwinding the tension in our body. Let's begin to come out of that myofascial unwinding and begin our practice. First practice is knee stirs. So if you already did the work with the strap for your hips, you're ready to do the mobility for your hips right here. Take one hand on top of each knee and draw circles. So I'm not trying to move my whole body. I'm really only trying to move this thigh bone. I'm going to do circles in one direction and then circles in the other direction. Make it small. From here, let's move into some seated hip rotation. We'll roll to our side. Sit up. Place your feet hip width apart. Your hands are going to be behind you. And all you're going to do is take your knees to one side and then the other. Any amount. You do not have to go all the way down to the ground. We're really focusing on movement here, especially at this joint. Getting the hips ready for things to come. If you want to do a little more, you can actually come up onto your knees and do a little stretch. If you're feeling especially like you want to do a little bit more for this mobility work, you can come up, all the way up onto your knee. Do one more to the other direction. Coming down, now that we've gotten our hip joints ready, we're going to move into some foam rolling. So grab your foam roller. I'm going to start out with a low back. To roll the low back, you're simply going to put the foam roller right under your low back. Come onto your forearms behind you and just roll that low back area. So starting out with a nice roll up and down. And then as you feel tension release, if you find one spot that has a lot of tension, maybe stay on that. Take a big inhale, exhale, and fall into gravity. So let your body melt into the roller. If it's too intense, move on. But it's okay if you feel a little bit of intensity, as long as you can control your reaction. Another thing you can do is do pelvic tilt. So find one spot on the roller and tilt your hips up and down. Maybe move to another spot and tilt your hips up and down. We're going to move from the low back to our glutes. Going to come up onto the roller. Lean your hips to one side and roll all the way down and all the way up. For today's purposes, we're going to do our rolls 10 times on each side. If you find this is helpful, you could do it longer, or you could do it less time. Maybe you just want to do a couple of rolls. Anything is helpful. Go slow, and if you have a spot that's especially tender, don't be afraid to sink into it. Let's go ahead and switch sides so you tilt your hips in the opposite direction. So you're focusing on one side of your hip at a time. Roll all the way up and all the way back. Make sure you're breathing. And especially if you get to those tender spots, just pause. Take a deep breath. Exhale into the tension. You will not hurt yourself on this foam roller. We're being very slow, intentional. Tension that you feel is a discovery of what you need to focus on. Maybe you didn't even realize you had tension in that area. After you release, do a few more long rolls. Again, you can do this longer or shorter than I'm doing here in this video. Now we're ready to do our first real stretch of the day, which is figure 4 on our backs. You can lay on your back. Remember from the tutorial, if you want, you can have a chair or use the wall. Start out with one leg across the other leg. We're wanting to press our knee away from our body. Start here. If you need more stretch, you bring your leg closer to the body. I'm using this arm to push my knee away. And we're going to breathe about 8 to 10 breath cycles. This is a good time to think of your mantra. A short phrase that is true that you want to remind yourself of as you practice. Something you wish to experience. I am strong, or I am flexible, I am open. As you feel a release, you can pull your leg closer. I'm going to switch sides. So you are going to notice one side might be totally different than the other. So you're going to take one hand and push the knee away. And then, to make it more intense, you bring it closer. Intensity is not always better. You can use that forearm to push that knee away. And then once you find that place between it's a little too much and it's not enough, it's that sweet spot, we call it the edge, you hold and let it happen. Try not to exert a lot of effort. This is a place that if you're having difficulty reaching your leg, a yoga strap can be very helpful. You also have the option of putting your foot up on a chair or the wall, which is a great way to do this. We're going to bring our leg down and move on. Next, we're going to foam roll the glutes. The quads, the front of the thigh. So we're going to do one at a time. You're going to grab your roller. If you have a long roller, you could do both at the same time. I have a short roller, so I'm going to have to do one at a time. It's nice to do one at a time because you're able to focus on one side. So remember to start and do the long, slow movements up and down the entire length of the muscle. Usually when people get to their thigh area, they start to feel some tension. So if you find a place of tension, pause there, take a deep breath, and sink into the surface. If you remember from the tutorial, there's lots of things we can do here. We can bend and straighten the knee. We can take the leg in and out. This is over any spots that have increased tension. We can also focus more towards the side of the leg, not on the outside here, but more towards the edge, right where it attaches to that IT band. You can go all the way up to your hip flexor, which would be at the top of the hip. And let's go ahead and do the other side. So you simply focus on the other side if you're doing a small roller. If you're doing the big roller, you can just keep rolling, but maybe lean more towards one side. Slow in with the breath as you move up and down the length of the muscle. When you find those spots of tension, pause. Take a deep breath and let go. Add your extra movement side to side over those trigger points. Or up and down. And then go back to your roll, maybe focusing again towards the outer part of the quadriceps, where that IT band is. We're going to go to the top of the hip where your hip flexor is. So remember, more towards the top. Now we're ready to stretch. So remember, the protocol is to roll and then stretch. You're going to lay on your side. You're going to grab your ankle. If you can't grab your ankle, grab your strap. Put the strap around your ankle and use that to reach your ankle. And then simply just pull your ankle towards your hip. You can lay down. You could be up on your arm. I think laying down is probably going to target the front of the hip a little bit more. And if you can, gently push your foot into your hand. Not a lot. We'll do that later in the later phases. Phase 1 is simple, static stretching. Try to bring your knees together. You don't want your knee up here because you're going to lose some of the stretch. And then you just breathe. Focus on your mantra. I am flexible. I am open. And squeeze that butt cheek of the leg that you're stretching. Going to go from that side to your other side. So simply turn around. Use your strap if you need it. Grab your ankle. Stack your knees. Press your hip forward. Push your ankle into your hand just a little bit to give yourself a little bit of support. And then slow the breath down. Maybe you tighten the butt cheek of the leg that you're stretching just a little bit. And repeat your mantra to yourself. Let's begin to move on. Next, we're going to move into the front of the hip. So here's where you want to have your yoga block ready. If you don't have a block, you could use a stack of books, a firm pillow. So the first level would just to be lay on your back, straighten one leg out and the other leg to your chest. That's going to relax the front of the hip. If your knee is bent, no problem. Just let it slowly straighten out over time. If you're seeking more sensation in the front of the hip, grab your firm pillow or block, place it under your hip. That's going to lift your leg up and allow you to be more lengthened in the front of that thigh. Make sure the other knee is into your chest. And slow the breath down. Especially the hip flexor, you'll feel it start to let go the longer you hold it. We hold a lot of tension in this area, and this muscle is known as the bully muscle. It likes to take over for other muscles when the other muscles aren't doing their job. So we want to quiet it down a lot of times. From here, you're going to take it to the other side. First, if you're on the block, let your back settle for a few breaths before you move to the other side. And then when you're ready, switch legs. Remember, sides are different, and maybe the other side is stiffer. If your leg is hanging in the air, just let it hang. Maybe put a blanket under your heel so it's not just hanging. But you don't have to keep your legs straight. You're working towards that, but you don't have to. If you decided the block was helpful, put that under your hips to elevate the hips. Let that leg that's straight be super heavy. The other knee is into the chest. That keeps your back from arching. And then find that breath. From here, we're going to move on. You can take the block out. Make sure you lower your hips so that your back is supported and it can settle down. Rolling to our side, we're going to come up. I'd like you to grab your tennis ball or your massage balls. And we're going to put these in the outer part of our hip. Right here. It's going to apply pressure, and then you're just first going to lay on it. You can stay upright or you can lay on your side. Laying on your side puts a little bit more pressure than upright. I'm going to choose upright today. So you could roll side to side over the tennis ball. You can take the bottom leg and make circles like you're riding a bike. This is called pin and stretch. You could also lift and lower that leg. Go ahead and move to the other hip. Remember, the ball goes right in the meaty part of your hip, kind of on a little diagonal. You start out by laying on it, exhaling into the tension, and if this is too much, you can do it against the wall in a standing position, kind of like a bear rubbing his back on a tree. Less weight. Then try your bicycles. This can be kind of intense, so breathe through it. You can do your leg lifts. And then you can just lay on it. We're going to take that out. Now we're ready to do the deeper stretch. It's rotation for the hips. On your back, feet are wide as your mat or even wider. Taking the hips over to one side. So now we're lengthening the outer part of the hip. If your back is tweaky and this is too much, move your hips over towards the side that you're stretching to take the twist out of the back. Your back will be a little bit more neutral. Your hips will be more stacked. If you're wanting more, take the other leg and place it on top of the thigh. Make sure your shoulders are on the ground and your heart is open. And then 10 breath cycles. Remember your mantra. When you're ready, switch sides. Remember, if your back is tweaky, stack your hips. Move your hips towards the side that you're stretching. Let your knees fall over. And if you need a little bit more, take the other leg on top of the thigh. And then 10 slow breaths in and out. From here, we're going to add our next opening posture, which is a butterfly. Feet together, knees apart, arms overhead. If your knees are way up in the air, or if you feel too much stretch in your groin, take your block or your blanket, put it on the outside of your thigh, up towards where the thigh meets the hip. Usually after a few breaths, your legs will relax into this support and you're able to take the support out. This is a wonderful time to focus on letting go, surrendering. In yoga we have a niyama, which is called Ishvara Pranahana. It simply means surrendering to things you can't control. I like to think of the poem where we're letting go of things we can't control, knowing the difference between things we can control and things we can't. So if your legs are feeling more relaxed, remove your blocks. To come out of butterfly, use your hands to lift your legs and bring your knees together. We're going to move to our final area, probably the most stubborn area for most people, which is the back of the legs, the hamstrings. Coming on up, we're going to first release them with the foam roller. You're going to take your foam roller and you're going to sit up on it. This can be quite intense, so be careful. And if you're short, the foam roller might be too big. And you simply take your body and you sit on the roller. This also will release the calves. You don't want to do a lot of long holds here. It's more of a press in and then release. And if you're wanting something a little bit more intense, and I will tell you this is super intense, you use the therapy balls or the tennis balls and you put them behind your legs, right here and here, and do the same thing. So again, it's a slow in and out. You don't want to put a lot of pressure here. And the ball is not only going into your calves, but also the back of your leg. Another option is to take the massage balls and put them under your thigh. This only works if you're already flexible. As you can see, I have to be able to lean forward with my legs straight. But some of you are more flexible here, so if you're looking to release tension there, you could do that. So you just place the ball under your leg and lean forward. Again, putting it in different spots, in and out. It's like a massage, really. So we'll take that and we'll move on to the hamstring stretch. Our final release will be for the back of the legs. Going to lay on your back. Make sure you have a strap, even if you're very flexible. Take the strap and put it around the ball of your foot. One leg can be straight, the other leg, you're going to find that place where you feel a stretch. And at that point, you're going to lock your elbows. See how my elbows are straight? I'm not trying to pull. You want to make sure this knee is straight and that you feel the stretch in the back of your calf. Once you find your edge, we're just going to hold it. There's no effort in my arms. I'm simply just hanging on, allowing those muscles to let go. We're going to hold it for about 15 breath cycles. And then simply switch sides. I like doing one side at a time, so that if you're more flexible on one side than the other, you're not sacrificing that side. But remember, if you're having difficulty with this stretch, holding the strap, your option would be doing both legs at the same time, or you could do one leg if you were in a doorway. Get next to a wall and put your legs up the wall. Make sure your hips stay on the ground when your legs are up the wall. So if my legs were up the wall, I would not want my hips coming off the ground. So you're either doing legs up the wall or the single leg hamstring release. No effort, just kind of hanging out. You may notice as you hold it, you'll be able to go a little bit further and a little bit further. Make sure this knee is straight. Following our hamstring release, we're going to move into constructive rest. Feet hip width apart, palms open. Fall back into your slow breath. And if you're familiar with yoga and you would like to take a Shavasana, a relaxation time, this is the time to take it. Let your body relax, kind of get heavy, and when you're done with your Shavasana, simply bring your legs up. Make sure you come up slowly so you can preserve some of your relaxation. So a lot of times it helps bring your knees to your chest, roll to your side, and push yourself up slowly. And once you're up, take a moment to receive your practice. Namaste.